Hello and welcome to episode 234 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now joining me on today's episode is Bob Gorman and Mike Derks from the band Gwar. Now, I don't know how you describe this band, but they need to be seen. Their stage show, their production and live performance is like nothing else. If you've recently gone to the Bloodstock Festival, you may have seen them. If you've been to any of the UK dates, you would have been blown away. They really are just so unique and just need to be experienced. And on today's interview, we get to talk all about This Is Gwar, which is the brand new Shudder documentary dedicated to this really unique and incredible band. That interview will be coming up in just a couple of moments' time. But before we get there, let's touch base and talk about my last episode, because this is now my most downloaded episode this year. It also got to number 23 in the iTunes chart in America. I was joined by Trevor Ferriman, yes, from Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, Elias himself, and my God, this interview blew up. Thank you so much. I've shared the news with Trevor. He's thrilled. He can't actually get his head around why people are interested in his work, but he is just an absolute pleasure to have on the podcast, and I really hope we can get him back in the near future. But today, it's all about Gwar, and I can't wait to share this interview with you. So here's me and Bob and Mike talking all things Gwar. Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, good.
Thanks for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
What I like to do with all guests on the podcast is find out basically what made them they are today. So talk to me, both of you, about maybe that first record you bought that made you fall in love with music.
I don't know. I guess I was probably one of the most hated bands, at least in our camp. But when I was like 8 years old, my parents bought me Sgt. Pepper's Hearts Club Band and a little turntable. And so I just fell in love with rock music back then, and got a guitar the next year and would go into school. In kindergarten, I was always grabbing the broom and pretending I was going to be a rock star. And that's pretty much whenever anybody asked me what I was going to be when I grew up.
Well, I'm from the artist camp. I don't play any music, but I've always loved weirdo stuff. And, I loved Dr. Demento, and I had a album of novelty hits when I was a kid that I couldn't put down. And to this day, I mean, I love rock and roll, I love metal, I love punk, but I love weirdo music. And Gwar provides plenty of weirdo music. So
did you have the backing of your family when you were young? I mean, you just said then you wanted to be playing guitar, and you were sitting there kind of mimicking and wanting to be in a band, and that's all you wanted to do. But for some parents, it's like an absolute nightmare when you turn around and say, I want to be in a band, or I want to try and be playing music. They're like, look, get a real job and then we'll try that another day. But did your family have your back like from the start?
My family's always been extremely supportive. When I told them I wanted to quit college and join Gwar and go off on a school bus and travel the country, they said, oh, that sounds like a great experience. And yeah, I was like, I'll just do it for a semester, Mom, and I'll be back. And here it is. And I'm still
30 years later, you're like, that was a long semester.
Yeah. But my father is a psychology professor, and he teaches a course in used to before he retired, taught a course in the psychology of humor. He would actually use Gwar as source material for his course on an example of chaotic aggressive humor.
That's incredible.
my mom wasn't so supportive. She didn't tell me what to do, but because I was on my own, I just did it anyway. She was just more worried about the prospect of jumping on a school bus with a lot of people. But, I wasn't being supported by her, so I could do what I want. But it was more caring and worry. So it wasn't anti anything, but it wasn't full support.
And when you went on this bus and you kind of went out there and hoped it was just a semester, but, it might lead to other things, what was it like when you got this kind of response from your shows and the crowds were getting bigger, and each venue you noticed there was different faces at? Was you kind of believe in it, or did it just seem a bit of a dream?
I mean, it was a slow burn for us. Our career's been over 3 decades. there wasn't just a moment when all of a sudden, okay, yeah, we made it. It's like we still don't really feel like we've made it. It's just been a very slow, even line for most of our careers, and I guess it's been going up, but at a very slow rate. So it was never like all of a sudden, oh, this is it. So it always felt like it could fall apart at any minute, and it almost has quite a few times.
Yeah, and for me, I just enjoyed doing what I loved and traveling and being part of something that I'd always wanted to do, which is like, a bunch of weirdos just making stuff as they go. So I always say that the circus came through town and grabbed me and took me with them, and uh it's hard to go back after that. But yeah, there was no aha moment where it was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It's more like, well, if this falls apart, I'll do something else similar to this because this is what I love. But yeah, like Mike said, I thought it was over at least 3 times.
Somehow.
So why do you guys think it hasn't completely fell apart? Why do you think we are here now 30 years later and you've talked about times it almost broke, but it never did? What's kept it together? What's that glue?
I mean, it's a great idea. It's a story. It's like we've dedicated our whole lives to telling this story of these fictional monsters from outer space, and it's a story we don't want to see end. And there's just so many things we can do with it and that we've done with it. And it's an amazing dynamic of artists and musicians and just creative people that have gotten together. And it's like, we work, and every time we add someone new into the mix, it changes that dynamic. And it's always just been this creative soup that somehow freaking works.
Yeah, I always say it's like a snowball, rolling down a hill, and it just picks people up and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's almost like it can't stop. And when I thought it was going to stop before, Gwar doesn't ever try and force anything. We're not really good at that. Everything happens organically. People make decisions, and a lot of times they're bad, and we go along with it because we don't want to do anything else. And we we learn from that and say, okay, let's not do that next time. That's how we make costumes. I think maybe it's how they write music. It's like we make something new, and if we use materials we've never used before, you're either the great new material or the thing that fell apart and we never use again. So we do everything organically. And when Mike rejoined, it was more just him singing for the barbecue, and then it was like, oh well, he's our new lead singer, and that was very organic. I mean, we talked about it. We didn't make a decision. We didn't vote. It was just it just happened.
And do you think because you've had the lineup changes, like you said, new blood come on board, is that what keeping it fresh for you guys? Is that what kind of makes it that there's always a different dynamic and it doesn't get boring for too long?
I think so. Absolutely. Fresh blood is really important. And I always say that we're the SNL of heavy metal, and that it kind of keeps it valid that there's no original members, but what SNL is. It's different casts, it's the same humor.
Yeah.
Always revolving cast, and it's always kind of the same thing.
Yeah. And people think we suck now, just like SNL.
I mean, I've got
Belushi and Aykroyd, so
I've got 35 years of fan mail, and I remember we made a change in 1992, and people told us we sucked then. Our fans, our diehard fans, who still are our fans, so I don't know, what can you do? We get new fans all the time. Hopefully we keep a lot of them. The fans kept us going for sure.
Yeah, it's been amazing. We do kind of like, it's the new fans are what keeps it exciting and amazing, because like we can go in different directions, and there's people out there who are going to like it. Like a lot of the old fans might not like what we're doing now, but there's plenty more people who do. And think
is that the mentality then of the band now, that you want to recruit new fans? Because you see some bands that have been going 20, 30 years and they just rest on the fact that they've got a solid fan base that turn up to their gigs. They're the same crowd that have been there, and they're like, getting on for 50, 60-year-olds now who are in the crowd that are just solid, loyal fans. But are you guys wanting to find those new young fans that are going to be like, look, this is something different. We can show you that we're not just like all the other bands out there. We're going to give you an absolute experience like nothing else, and try to win new crowds over.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of Gwar. It's such an open concept that we can do so many things with it, and we can really be creative and try different ideas. And if we just depended, if we kept doing the exact same thing and trying to appease the people that liked us 30 years ago, you know, they're all going to die off soon anyways.
They're too old to come.
You said, is that what our new approach? It's not our new approach. It's what we've always done.
Yeah.
We've always tried to get new fans. Most people are turned off to Gwar from what their preconceived notions of it, you know. And I don't know if I didn't know anything about the band. There's a lot of my favorite bands that when I first heard of them and I thought I knew what they were, I hated it. And then I heard it in the background somewhere, or saw it in a movie or something, and was like, oh wait, I'm totally wrong. I'm the dick that thought I knew what was going on, and that's a really great idea. Every time we get in a little movie or we do a festival tour, all the kids that are there to see something else or watch the movie and not see Gwar, they see Gwar and they're like, oh, I had no idea. I'm a fan now. So that's always been our approach. It's not new at all.
That's awesome. And with the documentary over here, it's on Blu-ray under Shudder. This is Gwar. Now, what was it like trying to put all this together? Because you've got 30 years of material, you've got different video footage. There must have been loads that didn't make the final cut. So were you guys heavily involved in the construction and putting it in the directing and everything that the fans get to see?
Luckily, we had an amazing director, Scott Barber, who took that monumental task on himself, because we've tried to do it ourselves and it's just too much and we don't have the perspective. We're just too close to it. And
yeah,
I think him being someone from the outside who still really loved the idea and loved the band, I think it was the perfect perspective, and he did an incredible job with it, telling a cohesive story out of this chaos of 3 decades of just madness.
Yeah, we had over the years, even before Dave passed away, we'd had people hitting us up to make a Gwar documentary, and we'd listen to what they said, and you know, we just said no. And after Dave died, we had 3 different companies hitting us up with proof of concept and everything. And most of them were about the Dave Rocky just died story. And I remember talking with Derks and Matt and just saying, what do you guys think? And they said, you know, you should decide. And I said, well, I think we should go with the guy that doesn't know what story he's going to tell, and, you know, let him work with us. And that was Scott. And I'm really glad we did that, because you know we kept a little clause in there that we couldn't, if he made a movie that made us look depressing or something, we would say no. We didn't want it to defame the brand, but we were going to let him make his movie as long as that didn't happen. And so then I handed over a lot of that footage is my archives that I've been saving for years or getting from other people, because I knew this would happen at some point. So we let him have our archives. We trusted him. And yeah, I think we're all pretty blown away at the final, you know,
it's a lot of trust, isn't it, to put into someone. And to, like you said, it's like handing over all your diaries and photo albums from your whole life, and it's very personal. And like you said, you kind of want to come across well on it. You don't want a whole documentary to make you look like you're a moron or anything, because it's like, fucking hell, the world's going to see this, you know. So yeah. When you watched back that first kind of edit, were you really happy with the results? Was there stuff that you had to write down and say, look, take this bit out, take this out, this isn't what I want to do? Or were you just like, yeah, you've crafted something here and you've created the thing we want?
No, Scott really did tell a really good story. And you know, it's like, yeah, we were scared, because I think that's why we went with Scott Barber, because we got a feel from him that he really did appreciate our project and really loved the band. And these other people that had an agenda and a story they wanted to tell, it's like, well, that's not really our story. That's a story, and not necessarily the story that we need out there for us to continue on with our lives. If we're like, okay, there's a period on this band, it's done, this is the conclusive story, then maybe. But yeah, we trusted Scott to, like,
Yeah, I mean, he's such a kind, sweet person. And but basically, I think about it now. I mean, it's a hard movie for I think us to watch because, I mean, I don't think I ever want to watch it again because it's very, very strange and very emotional. But um, it's almost like he just let us tell our story. He did very little. The only input we had was um some music licensing and things like that and working things out like that. I mean, I'll say this, that because we were in control of it, we couldn't say, like, there are a lot of people that did a lot in Gwar that aren't in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I think
The biggest regret is that we couldn't include all these super important people that helped make it. But like the thing is, you could make a 2-hour movie just on the first like 3 years of war.
Yeah. And he had all that information, and he probably, if we hadn't gotten funding and gotten a distribution deal, we might still be working on it and might have included those, and it might be a different movie. But when we saw the first cut, I think we all said, like, oh, this is a direction we can totally support. It needs tweaking. But there are people that are in the movie that were only in the band 8 months, and then there are people that were in the band for 15 years that aren't in the movie. And so one thing that I think we decided amongst ourselves is the credits have the important people in them, and at least we give them that. You see every single person that was in the band for a very long time, and they get credits as being in Gwar, not formerly in Gwar. So that was the only thing that we decided to do to hopefully help that, inequality.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's my first thought, was the director sitting there in the editing suite, and how do you get it down to a couple of hours? Like, how? Because it's like asking the Beatles when they had that documentary on Disney that was like 6 hours long, but still, I think Peter Jackson had 200 hours of material. I'm thinking, how do you even start? But he does tell the story in 2 hours, and like you said, there's some bits and some members that won't get there, but in the focus. But the fact is, you guys are happy, and that's important.
before we got a distribution deal, and everything shook out, which we're very happy with as well, there was talk that we could try and sell it as a mini series. And one thing that we don't know what's going on with Shudder. We have a really good relationship with them, and they want more content from us. It's always a possibility we could expand this. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Maybe it'll turn into a 6 1-hour, each era of Gwar gets its own 1 hour, like the SNL documentary series. So maybe if enough fans clamor for that, Shudder will make that happen. Who knows?
Or just to do the big cash grab thing of like the director's cut, the unseen, like when Marvel do a film a year later, like, this is the version the band wanted you to see. Just make more money doing it that way.
Well, we never filmed a lot of those other guys. They never got filmed because we just ran out of time to get those interviews. So
and with the future of the band, how's it looking? Is there a chance that we get to see you in the UK anytime soon? Festivals next year or anything like that? Have you got like some news that you can not quite tell me yet, but you can soon?
Well, we were just over there for a few festivals and for Bloodstock. And,
in Derby, yeah.
Yep, and we had a great time at the European festivals, and we will definitely be back most probably next festival season.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
our management is working with us, and we have to plan that way out, and so we're in that planning stage, and it looks very probable that we'll be back next summer.
And how did you find Bloodstock? Because it's a very local festival to me. There's like Download and Bloodstock, and it's the best sort of metal festivals we've got here. And I always think Bloodstock's the right size. I see people with their kids there, and I see people with their grandparents there, and it's just the best vibe around.
Yeah, it was hot this year.
Yeah, really fucking hot.
Move the stage so the sun isn't shining on it all day. But
it's a well-run festival. We've played it twice now, and I can't complain, because those big festivals can be totally horrible sometimes, but they've got their shit together, and they treat the bands, the artists, very well. So they can't control the sun, but maybe changing the angle of the stage, but
like a rotating stage just turns around halfway through.
Well, Gwar looks better at night anyway. Gwar doesn't look really good in the afternoon, but we get the slot we get, and we're happy for it. So we'll make do.
And what is the secret then, guys? Because I've had bands on here recently like Incubus, and I'm trying to think of bands that have been going like Everclear, that have been going like 30 years, 20 years plus, Jimmy Eat World, other bands like that. And what's the secret to keep on going? Because you said that you have no vision of Gwar ever ending, but there must be a point one day when you're like, my back hurts, I can't do a 2-hour show, I just can't do this. But you guys don't seem like you have any bit that wants to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be it. That's going to be the physical when we physically can't do it anymore. But because intellectually, there's so many stories that can still be told through Gwar.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there's some way where we could be, tell the stories through movies and comics and albums, and then maybe come out and do a couple festivals a year, as we get what we can't do. We're in the middle of a 2-month tour right now, and everyone seems pretty healthy and everyone's doing it. But 10 years from now, I don't think we won't be able to do that. So we're going to have to figure that transition. I think that's our big challenge. But we're transitioning into more of a festival band, because that way we get more fans. We're in front of fans that are there maybe to see Judas Priest, and they come over and see Gwar, and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So I can see us doing, you fly into those, you get paid well, you do one, and then you're done. So, I see maybe us transitioning into more of just a festival band as we get older, and then we can do that. It's a one shot.
And my final question for you guys is, I ask this to everyone that comes on the podcast, and there's 2 of you, so you might have to have a fight to decide. But the outro music on every episode, on over 200 episodes, is chosen by the artist that's been on. So is there a song, and it doesn't have to be one of your own, it can be a song that you love, that when I ask the question comes straight to your heart or to your head, that you just fucking love, that would make a perfect outro song? And if there's 2 and you can't decide, I'll pick one, and then you'll find out when it comes out.
I mean, we have one that honors our ex-singer that I think we would close with a lot, because it's funny, but it's also very, very tragic. And Send in the Clowns.
Is that you both happy with that to be today's episode closer then? Awesome. Thank you both for your time. My time's up. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and good luck with the rest of the press and everything. And I'll be promoting the hell out of this documentary here in the UK for you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and Bob and Mike from the amazing band Gwar. Really great people. Really short interview. It's one of those interviews that I kind of wish I'd had like another hour, because I feel like we just started getting going. But who knows? Our paths may cross in the near future, especially if they're touring in the UK, and I'd love to get a face-to-face interview with these guys, because I find them fascinating and have so much respect for the work they do. They really are like no one else. As you heard, we talked all about This Is Gwar, which is the documentary right now, which is available to buy on Blu-ray from the great guys at Shudder. These guys put some amazing stuff out, and this is a documentary that will blow your mind, so go and check it out. If you've really enjoyed today's episode, hit me up on markandme.com, because on there's links to Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And all I ask that if you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that retweet button, share it on Facebook, or maybe put it on your Instagram stories, because you don't realise just how powerful that is. It costs nothing for you guys to do at home. It's literally the click of a button, and that'll get the word out there to maybe your followers or people on your Facebook list, and that will then encourage people maybe just to check out an episode. And before you know it, they've signed up, they've subscribed, and then they're a Mark and Me fan for life. And that is something that money can't buy. So please, if you've enjoyed today's episode, I really appreciate it. I do have a Patreon account set up, and starting in November, there will be exclusive episodes just for my patrons. Not only that, when you sign up, which can be as little as £1 a month, you get an exclusive badge, some stickers, and I'll update you throughout the year with lots of exclusive content. You might even get to ask a question to one of my guests, and so much more. And please, every penny that goes in via Patreon helps me put more podcasts out there, put it on directories like iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, which all cost money. I don't make a penny myself and put it all right back into the production of Mark and Me. I'll be back in only a few days' time with a brand new episode. So until then, look after yourself, take care, listen to Gwar, and I'll speak to you all very soon.
Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me here at last on the ground, you in midair. Send in the clouds. Isn't it bliss? Don't you approve? One who keeps turning round, one who can't move. Where are the clouds? Send in the clouds. Just when I stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours, making my entrance again with my usual flair, sure of my lies, no one is there. Don't you love a farce? My fault, I fear. I thought that you'd want what I want. Sorry, my dear. But where are the clouds? Quick, send in the clouds. Don't bother, they're here. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queer? Losing my timing this late in my career. But where are the clouds? There ought to be clouds.